I was her therapist, not her man. It took me a while to admit that, because for the longest time, I thought what we had meant something. The late-night calls, the deep conversations, the way she'd open up to me when the rest of the world had shut her out. I thought that was intimacy. I thought that was the beginning of something real. But it wasn't. I wasn't the one she wanted. I was just the one she vented to when the guy she actually liked stopped answering. I'd be on the phone with her, listening to her cry over a man who never took her seriously, while biting my tongue so I didn't say what I was really thinking. Why are you giving your heart to someone who doesn't care when I'm right here? But I never said it. I stayed quiet, supportive, safe. The emotional punching bag, the unpaid therapist who answered every time she needed someone, but somehow never got chosen in return. She said I was such a good listener, said I understood her better than anyone else. She told me I made her feel seen, and I believed that mattered. I thought that meant I was special, that eventually she'd realize what was right in front of her. But what I didn't see back then was that I wasn't building a connection. I was building a one-sided dependency. She leaned on me not because she loved me, but because I was easy to lean on. And I let her. I kept telling myself to be patient, that one day she'd wake up and realize it was me all along, that eventually, after enough nights crying on my shoulder, she'd open her eyes and see the difference between someone who uses her and someone who actually gives a damn. I thought if I just stayed consistent, stayed available, stayed kind, she'd connect the dots. That somehow, if I kept being there for her when everyone else walked away, I'd be the one she finally turned to when she was ready for something real. That's the lie we tell ourselves. We think loyalty will change someone's heart, that being the better man earns you a spot in hers, that if we just hold on long enough, play the role well enough, she'll stop running toward chaos and start choosing stability. But she never does, at least not for you. The truth is, I wasn't waiting for her to heal. I was waiting to be picked. And the entire time I thought I was being strong. What I was really being was emotionally available for someone who only saw me as a temporary fix. I was the place she came to recover from the damage caused by the men she actually wanted. I thought I was the nice guy playing the long game. But in reality, I was just a placeholder. Emotionally convenient, romantically invisible. And even when I saw it happening, I convinced myself to wait a little longer. Because the lie felt easier than the truth, that she was never confused. She knew exactly what I was, and what I wasn't. It wears you down, being the guy she leans on, but never looks at. You start off thinking it's noble, that you're doing the right thing by being there for her. You tell yourself you're being supportive, that you're different from the rest. But what starts as care slowly turns into quiet desperation. You begin measuring your value by how much pain you can absorb. Every call, every text, every conversation about another guy, you swallow it. You nod, you comfort, you offer advice, all while your chest tightens with things you'll never say. And the worst part? She doesn't even see it. She thanks you for being a great friend, smiles, and goes back to chasing the same guy who's already shown he couldn't care less. She tells you how lucky she is to have someone like you in her life. And somehow that feels worse than silence. Because deep down, You're not the one she thinks about when she's getting ready for a night out. You're not the one she flirts with, dreams about, or misses when you're not around. You're the one she turns to after all of that falls apart. And that kind of role, it drains your soul. You give and give, but nothing fills you back up. You pour your energy into someone who sees you as a support system, not a romantic partner. You start to feel invisible, not because you're not present, but because you're never seen in the way that matters. And over time, it changes you. You stop feeling strong. You stop feeling valued. You start wondering if maybe this is all you'll ever be. Someone's emotional crutch. Here's the brutal truth. You can't love someone into loving you back. No amount of kindness, patience, or emotional support will ever flip the switch in her heart. You could be her safest place, her biggest cheerleader, the one who knows her better than anyone else. And still, it won't be enough. Because love doesn't work like a reward system. There's no scoreboard, no finish line you cross where she suddenly realizes you're the one. She either feels it or she doesn't. And if she doesn't, it doesn't matter how good you are to her. You'll keep showing up with open arms, and she'll keep walking past them like they're furniture. Not because she's cruel, but because she never saw you that way to begin with. That's the hardest part. She doesn't hate you. She might even care about you in her own way. But it's not the kind of care that makes her choose you. It's the kind that makes her keep you around. Just enough to feel supported, never enough to feel committed. And that dynamic kills you slowly, because you're doing everything right, and it still isn't getting you anywhere. You're not being rejected because you weren't enough. You're being overlooked because you were never what she was looking for. She didn't want healing. She didn't want consistency. She didn't want peace. She wanted a spark, even if that spark came from chaos. And you, standing there with your steady hand and open heart, never stood a chance. That's not your failure. It's just the reality. You weren't her man, you were her comfort. And those are two very different things. There comes a point when you stop waiting for her to choose you and start choosing yourself. It doesn't happen all at once. At first, you still pick up the phone when she calls. You still pretend it doesn't sting when she vents about another guy. But something inside you begins to shift. The more you give and get nothing back, the heavier it starts to feel. And one day, that weight becomes too much to carry. You realize you're not helping her grow. You're just delaying your own. You were never supposed to be her emotional repairman. That was never your job. But you made it your identity, hoping it would lead to love, hoping that being there, no matter what, would eventually mean something. But now, it only means you've been ignoring yourself for someone who was never even looking. That's the turning point. The moment you stop asking, "Why doesn't she see me?" and start asking, "Why am I still here?" You start pulling your energy back, not out of spite, but out of survival. You stop answering every text right away. You stop showing up every time she needs a fix. You stop performing for a role you were never going to be promoted from. And suddenly, the silence feels different. Not lonely, freeing. Not rejection, release. You're not here to prove you're worthy. You're not here to fix people who don't want to be fixed. You're here to protect your peace. And anyone who threatens that, no matter how sweet, broken, or familiar, no longer gets unlimited access to your energy. That's when you reclaim your power. Here's what you need to remember. You are not her therapist. You're not here to fix her. You're not here to coach her through heartbreak after heartbreak. You're not here to be the emotional safety net for someone who doesn't even consider you a romantic option. That was never your job. You are either her man or you're not. And if she doesn't see you that way, if she only turns to you when she's hurting, but never when she's ready to love, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a fantasy, one where you believe that your love can convince her to feel something she doesn't. One where you think patience will earn you intimacy. But that's not how real connection works. You don't win someone over by absorbing their pain. You don't get chosen by playing the background role. And you don't build attraction by being endlessly available. You build it by knowing your worth, by refusing to settle for half-hearted attention, by walking away the moment you realize your presence is only convenient, not cherished. Stop trying to heal her. Stop trying to be the nice guy she eventually sees as a romantic possibility. Start being the man who walks away when he's not valued. Start being the man who doesn't accept emotional scraps in exchange for loyalty. Because the truth is, the moment you stop being her emotional backup, you create space to be someone's first choice. Someone who doesn't need to be convinced. Someone who doesn't need to be fixed. Someone who chooses you the way you always deserved.